hope everyone's had a good day. Hope it was chill for everyone. Uh, this should be this should hopefully be a longer stream than last time. Um, I'm far less tired, although I do apologize that I'm a little late. I thought everything was set up, and then turns out it wasn't. I opened OBS and I'm like, I'm gonna sync everything up, and then I'm like, in fact, I did not. So I had to run around and do that right quick. Um, yeah, this one is. I have learned some very interesting things in a very short amount of time about this one, and perhaps the most interesting part is that it was harder to find information than I thought it would be, and I am clearly the kind of person who finds books and loves them forever, and comes to find out that those books are not super popular and are actually kind of hard to find. I will apologize for that in advance. This one might be a bit rough if you go looking for it. Oh no, that's too loud. Hang on! Turn you down. Alright, that should be better. I think that's better. Sorry about that. Alright, so let me see if I can get this pulled up properly for once. View. Hooray! And then. Hooray! Alright. Nope. I can't. There it is. Alright. So once again, this is to entertain and inform. I don't own any of the rights to the book or the covers. But I do hope you enjoy this one. So we are talking about Wolf Tower, and I found out as I was putting this together. So I've read this book before. I read it as a kid and loved it. I bought it's part of a quartet. I bought the whole quartet as soon as I could find it all. I've known it as Wolf Tower for my whole life. And then I went searching for information on it. I'm like, oh, it's a Puffin book. It's all these things. I know this book. I own this book. I know the international name. This book is not originally called Wolf Tower. Yeah, but it's by Tanith Lee. So it was originally published by Hodder Children's Books in 1998. It is part of the series. It is the first book in. I pronounce this Claudie. I guess it could be Clady. But yeah, it's the first book in this series. It is a quartet. I think I've talked about my perchant of omnibuses before. I don't have one for this, but I do know there is one for this. But it doesn't include the fourth book, so I really would recommend going to find the individuals if you want the full series. Yeah, so, surprise! The original title is Law of the Wolf Tower. And this is where I come into the part of it was hard for me to find information. I was able to find information for the artist for the original. Is Brad Gray. He is a very much a traveler, but he has been nominated for multiple international awards for like portraiture, His style is very surreal, very abstract, which will line up pretty well with Tanith Lee's writing. Am I too quiet? Things that are hard to tell sometimes. I think that's better. Let me. Why do I lose my mouse every time? Let's see. Let's see if I am. It doesn't say I'm too quiet. Let me know if I am too quiet, and I will attempt to turn me up. All right. So this is where things get difficult. These are also Hodder publications. I tried very hard. I tried looking up Hodder Silver. I tried looking up just Law of the Wolf Tower. I cannot find the artist for this. And that's a little problematic because based off of the illustrations for the sequels in the series, this artist did the full series at some point. And I don't know who it is. So these are also again, these are the original publication in the UK, so that is home base for these. Oh, I am jerky. Let's see if I can fix that too. I thought I fixed this once tonight. Okay, let's see if that works better. I think so. Yeah. I have a slightly different setup tonight because I was running late and I thought I had everything and I clearly did not. This is the cover I am familiar with. So this is the soft cover. The hard cover is slightly different. It's not a perfect reverse, but Claudie is facing the other way and is on the other side of the house. I was able to find that the artist's name is Victor Lee. The problem is neither that first name nor that last name is extremely unique. So I found multiple Victor Lees and I wasn't able to pin down which illustrator did this. So this is the 2001 cover, but I do not know which Victor Lee it is. So about the author, Tanith Lee was born 1947, died in 2015. She won multiple Nebula and World Fantasy Awards, and she wrote over 90 novels and 300 short stories. Her short story anthologies, like just doing a quick search, are kind of easier to find because she wrote with a lot of other like big fantasy names, and so they're still in circulation a bit more than her novels are, which is kind of sad. So my sister, you know, Lady Cry sister, she actually reads Tanith Lee's Unicorn series. So I want to say it's the red unicorn, the gold unicorn, and the black unicorn. But she read and enjoyed those. I read the Claudie journals. She wrote fantasy, primarily sci-fi fantasy, but it was all like speculative fiction. Um, and like the Wolf Tower series, I didn't notice this as a kid, um, but reading back through it as an adult, it reads a bit, not entirely, a bit like a post-apocalyptic. Um, like the world was destroyed, the world is rebuilding, and people are being people, which means summarily awful. So that is this one. So what do you need to know about Wolf Tower? Wolf Tower has a female main character, as you can guess by the name of the series, the Claudie Journals. Claudie is your girl. It is a journal style story ish. I will go into that in a second. It focuses on character growth. I know that that's kind of a, well, of course it does. It's a story. It goes from 1 to 2 to 3. No, that is the point, is growth. And this one is a very easy read. It is not, the words aren't complicated. The story isn't complicated. The characters aren't especially complicated. They're not one-dimensional, but they're not, you don't have layers upon layers of intrigue. There's nothing like that. It's a much more straightforward story. To the point where, having read it before, I was like, when does this happen? I'm pretty sure this happens. This is gearing up to happen. Where is it? And I would not be shocked if a first-time reader had some of the same nuances, especially because much like Beauty and Lord of the Rings and like a lot of other things that were not necessarily first but early, so Beauty being an early step into retelling classic fairy tales, Lord of the Rings being a very early grand fantasy novel, high fantasy novel. They're a bit more basic in their tropes because they're early, so those things weren't tropes yet. Wolf Tower feels a little bit like that. There are some things that you're like, well, I could see that coming from a mile away. And on the one hand, it's a children's book, and on the other hand, it came early. So, and I know 1998 is not early in the scheme of fantasy novels, but in this style, I think that's a fair assumption. So your main character is Claudie. She is your main character, she is your narrator, she is your voice. She's a spirited orphan. She's the servant to a princess of the house. The house is where the first bit takes place. At the beginning you have the house and you have the waste. So if it isn't in the house, it's the waste. She's very opinionated, but has learned to hold her tongue. Again, see that she is spirited and also a servant. These two things do not go well together, traditionally. But because she is writing to an imaginary friend who she doesn't actually believe anybody will read the journal, she's very open in what she thinks, in how she feels. It's a very feminine voice. Like, yes, it's a female, but it's also, there's the falling head over heels, there's the jealousy, there's the trying not to be jealous, there's the, oh, you weren't worth my time. Like, all of that is there. Um, and it's very much told from a teenager's perspective. Um, Very believable, very, yes, I can see this. So it is journal style ish. So the biggest reason I say this is it isn't dated. There are no hard dates, not even a localized one, with it being a fantasy novel. And it has named and numbered chapters. But within those chapters, time jumps around or it's framed. Um, Very early, there is a chapter where it covers weeks, and it's no longer than any other chapter because it's a lot of, oh, nothing happened, didn't write, nothing happened, didn't write, oh, I went out and had to deal with the princess being a brat, stuff like that. And then there's another chapter shortly after that where it's like, I'm writing this now because I forgot to write it at the time, so here's what happens. And so it's a little bit of a flashback. But it's always told from the perspective of Claudia is talking to someone who doesn't exist, and she will mention that several times of, I don't believe you exist, I'm pretty sure I'm writing to myself, no one's ever going to read this, things like that. Things like that. Oh, oh no. Hang on just a moment. I think I have a problem. Let me go see if I can fix this. Does that work better? Can you hear me better? I hope so. Sorry about that. Was weird. All right. So character growth. Um, so this would be true in any story, but this one it's especially true. Claudia at one point says she doesn't recognize the girl who began writing from the one who is writing now, and that's not at the end of the book. It's about 2/3 of the way in, and it's kind of nice because she realizes that. So you, as the reader, see it. She is not the same. She is not. She is not so drastically different that you can't see the string trailing from one iteration to the next, but it's nice to see a character aware of their own growth. And for Claudie, it's not fighting, it's not a training montage, it's not building muscles and learning incredible new things. No, it's the things she learns by leaving home, by being alive, by interacting with people, by not just being a servant the whole time. Claudia is very much trapped. Um, she mentions very early on that there are both servants and slaves at the house, but she also states that the slaves to some of the old ladies are held in higher regard than the servants of some of the princesses. So they're different, but it's not really indicated how much. So seeing her grow from the very angry, can't do anything about her situation, um, jumps at the first chance to leave that she gets, to someone who is less naive. No less hopeful, no less wishful, but she learns things. It's nice. It's nice seeing her aware of it. I wish more modern characters were aware of their growth. Um, it feels like the only time we see that is like training montages and, ooh, I started out as a puny weakling and now I have muscles. And I'm like, cool, your personality is still the same though, and that's lame and boring. This is very much a growth in personality. This is an easy read. This is very simple, very straightforward. Um, it's simple language, it's a simple style, it doesn't jump around a lot, there's no real frills in the story, and that's all a good thing. It's a strength of the story, not a weakness. Because it makes it accessible to everyone. And like before you look at it and go, oh, it's a girly story. Well, I mean, it is a story about a girl, but the it's not inherently a girl's story in that sense, because everyone feels trapped sometimes. Everyone wishes for something else. Everybody looks over the wall and is either like, oh, I want to go there, or oh, that's too hard. And many people, like Claudia, it's a bit of both. It's, I desperately want to get out, and out is over this wall, but also that looks dangerous and scary, and I will die if I leave. And that is established very early that that's Claudia. She wants, more than anything, to leave. But leaving means death. It's not really a spoiler, it's very early, but spoiler, she leaves. There's a reason behind it. There's a boy involved. But the style is simple. It's straightforward. It's her journal. It's her thoughts. Claudia is... She doesn't need 10,000 words to get her thoughts across. This is not an R.A. Salvatore or a Tolkien that is got so many beautiful narrative or beautiful descriptions that they can sometimes get in the way of the narrative momentum. This gives you enough description to see what she sees, but it never slows down. It is a steady walking pace, basically, through the whole thing. The tension ebbs and flows, but it's never rushing to the end. It's never like slow, like I will admit it, like Lord of the Rings can get. I am aware of the strengths and weaknesses of that novel. So for the recommendations, I am very sorry. I am going to be very honest right now. Journal styles are not my thing. Also, Lady Crysister will be very upset about one of the things on this list. But journal style books are not my thing. I don't typically like them. Like I said, this one in particular is different because it doesn't read like a journal style book. But if you do enjoy those, there is Terrier by Tamora Pierce. It is book 1 in the Becca Cooper trilogy. They're all named after dogs. They're really easy to find in that sense. Um, she is keeping a journal and keeping notes to help keep her mind sharp, as she has joined the Lord Provost's Guard, um, which are the police slash detectives for the kingdom. It is another Tamora Pierce, so I really like it, highly recommend it. Next in line is the Royal Diary. So there are a bunch of these. I own two, but I have read more. So technically any of them in the Royal Diary series is fine, but I enjoyed Mary Queen of Scots, Queen Without a Country, by Catherine Lasky. It's kind of exactly what it says it is. It's about Mary, Queen of Scots. And actually most of it takes place in France. So, not all of it. Not all of it. There are parts that don't. But it is very much, what does it mean to be a queen and have no country? And then the last one is Flowers for Algernon, and this is the one that Chrysister will not be happy about me putting on here. By Daniel Keyes. So this one isn't quite a journal. I read the short story version. There's also a novel, and I think there's a movie too. It is a bunch of lab reports about a man and a lab rat. The rat is Algernon, if I remember correctly. It is not a happy story, but it is a very well written story. Again, it's another one of those where there is value. You don't always need happy endings. You don't always need good times. Sometimes it's okay to just be quiet and a little sad. So this is my cop-out, because I hate saying easy read books, so I went with just female lead books, and then I realized I have so many of those. How do I pick? So these are some that I just enjoy. They are all slightly different genres. So The Scorpio Races by Maggie Stiefvater is a semi-modern, that's not true, mostly modern fantasy story about horse races. I enjoy the way Maggie Stiefvater writes. She writes dark fantasy, but it's not like super dark. Okay, I don't find it super dark. But it is not the unicorns and butterflies kind of fantasy. There is an edge to it. There is the, hey, these things are dangerous. So that is the Scorpio Races. Heir Apparent. So Heir Apparent is interesting. By Vivian van de Velde. Van de Velde? It might just be Van de Velde. It is about a girl who, how do I explain this? It's about a girl who goes to a video game arcade when people are outside protesting. I think she gets like a gift card or a coupon. I don't remember, but she decides to go anyway. And it is a immersive video game arcade. And she chooses to play the game Heir Apparent. And stuff happens and she gets stuck in the game. And so it is her desperately trying to get out of the game. There is someone on the outside trying to help her. Keyword there is trying. And how do you do when you, like, she keeps doing things wrong and like encountering errors and like, but she's trapped unless she beats the game. So think of it's kind of like Dot Hack or Sword Art Online, only lower stakes than that. I mean, it's not. She does desperately need to get out because reasons. Um, but it's less danger inducing in that if she dies, which she does in the game many times, she does not die in real life. But there is a time limit on her getting out. So there is that sense of, oh, I need to get out. So she's in a fantasy video game, but it's technically futuristic because it's a VR full dive type situation. The next is Girl in a Cage, which is by Jane Yolen and Robert Harris. And this is book 4 in a quartet. Once again, breaking my my word that I would try to only recommend the first books. The Stewart Quartet. So this is historical fiction, which is odd for me, but go with me. And the reason I picked this one and not one of the others is that this one is a little more raw. It's a little more hey, this is dumb, like life is hard and why are you making it worse kind of feel. It is about the Stewarts, so the Stewart Quartet. Again, you are following the girl in the cage. And again, it's historical fiction. If you want something that's a bit lighter and that is more court intrigue, because this is not, one of the other books in the series is Queen's Own Fool, and it is more court intrigue and the Queen's Fool. So speaking open and honestly and allowed to say things that others are not. And then the last on this list is Uglies by Scott Westerfeld, which is part of the series Uglies. It is book 1. So Uglies, Pretties, Specials, and Extras. I always get those last two mixed up. I think it's Specials and Extras. It is about, so it is a futuristic book, post-apocalyptic type, but it doesn't feel like it is, but it isn't. It doesn't feel post-apocalyptic, but everybody, I want to say it's 16. It might be later than that, but they all undergo plastic surgery and become pretty, and then they all move to Pretty Town and have like parties and have fun. And it is about a girl named Tally before she's a pretty, while she's still an ugly, and she's doing things she's not supposed to do. She's breaking the law, and she starts to learn a little bit about what's going on with the pretties and whether or not that she actually wants to be a pretty. Like, it's not all nice. So that is the recommendations. I can't remember. There was another book that I had considered recommending, and then chose not to. because I couldn't remember if it qualified as a journal, and it's a little sensitive, um, but it's very good. It is broken into smaller segments, if I am remembering it correctly. And again, that is one of the problems. Many of the books I recommend I own, um, but some of them are books that I have previously read but have never gotten around to owning. Um, so I'm a rereader, so I am very likely to buy a book even if I've already read it because I enjoy reading it again. But if you were willing to put up with with a suggestion that's not on the list, Winter Girls. Uh, oh, what is that woman's name? Hang on. Let me pull up her name so I can tell you who wrote it. Lori Halls Anderson. So she wrote Speak, which I had to read in high school. She also wrote Prom, which I had to read in college. Um, but she writes Winter Girls, and it is not a light book. It is, for being a book about an 18-year-old, it's a bit heavy. It deals with eating disorders, it deals with harm, and it deals with the mentality, because it is a first-person perspective. It's very interesting, but it is heavy, so that isn't for everyone. Not everyone wants to read that, and I can respect that. Like I said, I kind of wanted to recommend it, put it on the list, but then I was like, oh, that's not for everyone. And I couldn't remember if it's quite a journal exactly, because the other two, both Speak and Prom, are not journals exactly. Again, they're broken up into smaller denominations, but it's not like just traditional chapters. But I don't think it's quite broken up like a journal. One of the fun things about Wolf Tower itself is that you can go through 2/3 of the book and they don't mention the tower. So if you're reading it going, where's this tower? Why haven't I heard about the tower? You won't. It shows up eventually. It is the title, but it's way down the line. You don't encounter it initially. There's some pretty stereotypical characters in this, but it's there's nothing wrong with that. I don't mind that. If you're having fun with the book, that's the important part. I like the fact that this is super accessible. Anybody can read it. Again, you may have a hard time finding it. So the Puffin book is from 2001. Yeah, the Puffin book is from 2001. I think Hodder put out a 2006 edition. And actually, if you look at some of the newer ones, they don't really have covers. They're like solid colored. Which is why I say I think they're going to be hard to find, because to me that implies that they are out of print. That is how I would interpret that. If I am wrong, I am sorry. Geez, also, I just realized how far back 2006 is, and I think that's the newest publication date. Oh, time is so weird. You'd think I would be able to keep track of something as simple as time. So I have never. Journals aren't really my thing, and I think part of that is because I don't keep one. Um, so it's hard for me to be like, yes, let me read someone else's journal when I'm like, I don't care about that. Um, and as time, excuse me, oh, sorry. As time goes on, I have leaned away from a lot of first person um, novels, and I'm more likely to read a third person or an omniscient or something that's over the shoulder as opposed to in someone's head. Um, so, like, journals are first person. And it does mean, less so with this one, but it means that a lot of times first person have unreliable narrators, and I don't always like the narrator lying to me and finding out the narrator lied to me. Um, like, it can be a nice twist, but sometimes it's just like, well, I just read an entire lie. Like, I didn't actually read the story I thought I read. The Becca Cooper books are a bit of an exception to the rule. I'll admit it. That has to do with my bias for Tamora Pierce more than anything else, though. Okay, my tracking is unhappy tonight. um. So yeah, I'm not a huge fan of that. That being said, the next book on the list, which was randomly selected by me pulling from my stack of books to read, is about both honesty and deception. It is about lies and truth. When are they appropriate? When are they not? Do they both have merits and values? So there's your clue for next time. Deception and honesty. I don't just read books with female protagonists and female heroes. There for a while, none of the books I read had them. I was reading the Squire's Tales, which obviously had Knights of the Round Table, but also had Terrence. I was reading Percy Jackson, which, yes, Annabeth is there, but titular character and all that jazz. I was reading The Ruins of Gorlan and what is the one? Ranger's Apprentice is the actual series, which again follows Will. So there for a while, none of my books had girls as the heroes. And then I had a couple like the Wizard series, where you had one of each. Oh, I'm so sorry. You had one of each, and then you got an extra girl, and then you met another boy, and then you met a whale. That's a great series. If you want a very interesting sci fantasy series, the Wizard series, Young Wizards. I want to say the actual name of the series is Young Wizards. Is fantastic. Oh, I'm spitting. Is fantastic. Because it's being a wizard is not limited A to a single species, B to a single planet, C to carbon-based life forms, And that is the one where there's a lot of math and science in your magic, and it's delightful. Um, but it also deals with some like universal things such as loss and grief, such as growing up, coming of age, um, that kind of thing. And all of it's wrapped up in things that include whale wizards. Oh, I love Sari. Oh, goodness. I said I wasn't tired today. I'm not. But now I am. How dumb. I think it's really interesting. Maybe really is a bit much, but I think it's interesting that some of the older books, and I say some because it isn't true of all, but mm, um, the titles don't really come into play very much. Um, for example, Wolf Tower, like I said, you don't even hear about that until 2/3 of the way through. And then you don't even really get to know what that means exactly until later, which is why I was surprised to find out that the original UK title was Law of the Wolf Tower, because that's something that's brought up even further along in the story, like in the last couple of chapters. So it's like, oh, you've told me this thing by the title, and I don't understand what it means. It does eventually make sense, but it makes sense from a rereader's perspective as opposed to an initial reader's perspective. Um, but that was the thing a lot of the older books had. Excuse me, I'm very sorry. I let me drink some more coffee. Let me see if that helps. Okay. Alright, I've had a few more sips of coffee. Let's see if that helps. Um, no promises. I can sleep through just about anything. Except, natural weather. Um, no, but so a lot, not a lot, but many of the older books, they wouldn't give away stuff with the title. Let's talk about Percy Jackson. I like Percy Jackson. I think they're fun. I like the reimagining of myths, legends, and folklore. I like the concept of having your brain hardwired for ancient Greek, not for English, and that causes problems. I appreciate this fact. But the first book is called The Lightning Thief. So I wonder what that book is about. Percy Jackson and the Lightning Thief. Well, like, there's two ways that title can go. Either he is the Lightning Thief, or he's encountering the Lightning Thief. And surprise, surprise, that is the crux of the book. Is he the Lightning Thief? Is he encountering the Lightning Thief? Look at the first Ranger's Apprentice book. Ranger's Apprentice, The Ruins of Gorlian. You find out very early, hey, there's these ruins. Stuff is happening. Don't check it out, it's dangerous. Like, 3 guesses what winds up happening. um, I will admit my little nerd heart sometimes wants to call it Ganon, because my brain gets on a Zelda kick and doesn't leave, but it is Gorlian. So you look at those, And like to some extent, I'm gonna say it again. He is not without flaw. You can look at things like The Hobbit. Cool. You meet a hobbit very early. Wonder what this book is gonna be about. Dwarves. But also the character you're following is the hobbit. um, and that's fine. Like, if it's done in a non-spoilery way, that's fine. But there's a reason that, like, Return of the King as a title is a spoiler, because there's only one king in that series who's not on his throne. um, so like you know where that's going. But then you've got books that are either blatantly misleading, such as Howl's Moving Castle, where you think it's about the castle. It's not. It's about the people. And honestly, it's only about Howl's Moving Castle is only about Howl because it's about Sophie. And if it wasn't about Sophie and Sophie hadn't encountered the castle, it wouldn't be about Howl. Which is kind of delightful. Well, or there are books that are like The Wizard of Earthsea. Yes, it's about the Wizard of Earthsea, but it's about so much more than that, because your main conflict is not that high. I'm glad you made it. Your main conflict isn't, oh, who is the Wizard of Earthsea? No, it's Ged. And then he does a dumb and consequences. We were talking about how Wolf Tower is a bit misleading in that it just it doesn't show up for 2/3 of the book, and then it's mentioned, and then the original title, Law of the Wolf Tower, is even more misleading because that doesn't show up until even later. But how there are some older books that did things like that, and then there's newer ones like, The Lightning Thief. 3 Guesses is what that one's about. But I did throw the obligatory, not everyone is perfect. The Hobbit is about a hobbit. And it's not like I think all books need to hide what they're about. That's not what I'm saying either. But there's a way to title your book that isn't like main story plot. The title. Like, I don't mind it. I don't mind it when it's like named after a place, or if it's named after like even just a person. Like I said, The Hobbit is not subtle, but it does tell you who you're supposed to care about. So that's a thing. Yeah, I was saying it was weird because this is a journal based book and I don't really like those. So my recommendations were a short list, only 3 instead of 4 this time around. It's just not my preferred style of writing. I should have thrown Dracula on the list. Dracula's is fine. It's a journal, newspaper clippings, letters. It's fine. Dracula's fine. I should have just thrown Dracula on the list for 4. I will admit Dracula is oh no. Well, someone has to like it. There's so much of it. Uh, I know it's a very popular historical fiction style, um, but I am not a huge historical fiction fan. And, like, I have the princess. Uh, oh gosh, are they called the Princess Diaries? Even though they're not? No, they're not. They're called the Royal Diaries. I'm like, wait a minute. One of these is Meg Cabot. The other one is not. The Royal Diaries. I have two of them. But I'll admit it. I have them because of where they're based, not because they're diaries. I have the Cleopatra the Seventh one, and I have Mary Queen of Scots. um, no, it's just not my preference. Like, I don't think it's objectively bad. It's just I don't always need to know what X is thinking about Y. What are you doing? I'm more interested in what's going on, not what you think is going on. I was trying to think if there's a good example of a modern book that buries the lead a little. Why do I feel like I should know Philippa Gregory? Why does that sound familiar to me? Let's do a quick Google foo. Y'all can't see this, right? No. Okay. Excellent. Have I read these? Oh no, we've got multiple covers. My worst nightmare. I've heard of her. I have never actually read them. That's fine. Oh, there's children's books in this list. That seems fine. No, the title I recognized was the other Boleyn girl. Look, I like children's books. I think more people should read them. I think they're well written. I think they have value. They're brightly colored. And they typically tell the story without all the stuff I don't actually care about. uh, X is making eyes at Y. I don't care. I don't care. Tell me what else is going on. I think that's why I don't like the journal styles so much. And actually, that might be why I like the Becca Cooper. Well, A, there's Tamora Pierce, so big ol' caveat. But they aren't focused on romance, and a lot of the journals are written by women who are interested in love and romance and marriage and a dude. And I'm over here going, but what about not? what if not that? Things I didn't think about why my preferences are what they are. No, and I was trying. So I do have a fair number of historical fiction. I just said this is not my preferred genre. I own several, from various college courses mostly, both college and grad school. I had to read some, but But I really do like, oh, I've read more than one. Hang on. One of them is called The Smile, and it's about, the person who is, oh, but telepathy is so problematic. Oh. I mean, I guess somebody has to have it. Let me look up The Smile book. No, not that novel. See, this is the problem when the book I want is older than the book that's popular with the same name. Donna Jo Napoli. Books. Because she has written several. Yes! Oh, I've read her Italy-based ones, I think. Where's the other? Yeah. Oh. All right. So, if we're talking about historical fiction that I do, in fact, like, don't use your telepathy for evil. That's rude. Um, Donna Jo Napoli. The ones I've read of hers. So, are The Smile, which is based off of a person who may have been the person to sit for the Mona Lisa, and deals with is such the wrong word to use for that. It talks about what daily life would look like for a merchant's daughter, who is a silk merchant, if I'm remembering correctly. So I really enjoyed that one. I just pulled up a list of her books. I also know for a fact that I read, where'd it go? No, really, where'd it go? It's one of the other Venice ones. Gosh darn it. Daughter of Venice. See, I'm smart. I knew it was about Venice. Daughter of Venice, which again is about a mid to high society girl. What life is like for her. And then I think I read Zell. I think that's the other one of those I read. Hang on, let me just do a thing. Yeah. Let me just add a slide and just be like, hey, historical fiction that we're talking about. We're talking about Donna Jo Napoli. Make sure I've spelled her name right. Yeah. Alright. And so one of them is just The Smile. That one's about hypothetical a person who sat for Mona Lisa. There is Daughter of Venice. Yes. Hang on. I will. Shush. There is Zell. Is that one just spelled how I think it's spelled? We'll see. What Oh, wait. Which one is this? I might be confusing Zell and Daughter of Venice. Fantastic. Hang on. It doesn't say. Of course it doesn't. Basically she doesn't want to go to a convent, doesn't want to go to convent. And then Zell. Look, I am a creature of, I'm a creature of covers, so if I recognize the cover, yeah, no, this Zell is fantasy. Not historical fiction. Alright, so let me view, and then minimize, and then badoink. Ta-da! Oh, I'm only shushing you because I was busy typing. Hey! Surprise edition! Because we were talking about it. Donna Joe Napoli. Zell is a fantasy, not a historical fiction, but I put it on here anyway because I've read it. So, The Smile is a lot of fun. So Daughter of Venice, she dresses up, and basically explores as much of the city as she can. If it's the one I'm thinking of, she winds up, becoming friends with a Jewish family, and kind of learning about cultures and differences and how people viewed them at that time, which wasn't great. But again, seeing it from a girl's perspective of her primary goal was, I don't want to go to a convent, I want to be free. The Smile was less of that. It was, she wanted to take over the business, but she is a girl. She loved the family business, she loved the silk, and the making of, and the caring for the worms. And then Zell is, there's some family problems in Zell. Yeah. It's a good one though. Girl meets prince, girl falls in love with prince. Mama's like, nope. And that is the crux of that story. Zell in a few short sentences. No, but all of these are I know them by their covers, which is why when I was frantically trying to figure it out, I'm like, no, that's the wrong cover. I know that's the wrong book. So if you're looking for The Smile, this particular book, there is a graphic novel just called Smile, which has a smiley face with braces on it. That's the wrong one. You're looking for one that looks like a yellowed and cracked painting like the Mona Lisa. That's what you're looking for The Smile. Daughter of Venice is red. It has a dark-haired girl in a burgundy gown with a cream underdress poking through. And Zell is the most simple. It's just a girl, but it's also the most unique name out of all of these, and probably the easiest to find just by name. Yeah, I've read a fair amount of historical fiction, if I stop and think about it. Why do I feel like with that evil face, it's a horror movie? I'm getting the feeling that is a horror movie. I don't want it. No spooks for me. Lady Chrysius says no. No, I guess I have read more historical fiction than I thought I had. But it's like very localized. I have the Princesses of Myth series, which is sort of historical fiction. Not all of those people truly existed, maybe. Um, and then I've got a handful of books about Italy, apparently. um, I've got several books about Mary Queen of Scots. um, I think the entire Stuart Quartet. I think that's the crux of the Stuart Quartet. I haven't read the full series in a while, though. I feel like that might be what that one is. Um, yeah, so I do have a few. Look, it would be fun. There would be lots of pictures happening. Um, one of those places is colder than the other. Although let's be real, if I went to the UK, I would probably go to Scotland, not England. Although I do kind of want to go to Wales. Um, I wear jackets. I would need coats. There's a difference. Yeah, no, I would probably wind up in not England as much as possible. No, but I wouldn't mind visiting Italy. Go in summer. Go in summer. They're still colder than we are. I'm a child of heat and warm. The UK is not known for either of those things. Rude. Uh, yeah. Alrighty. So that's surprise addition to everything. Oh no, I'm gonna sneeze. Hang on, let's try not to sneeze. Maybe? Maybe. Thank you. So, yeah. I guess I do read a bit more than I thought I did on that front. I'm still more of a fantasy girl though. Like give me Zell. Like as much as The Smile is the first one that comes to mind. The Smile comes to mind because I think it was the first historical fiction that I really liked. Um that I liked enough to buy, let me put it that way. Um I had to read Girl with a Pearl Earring for school. Um, that was interesting because it was about a painter. Is that the one that. It may have been this weird, like, rabbit hole where I was required to read Girl with a Pearl Earring, which is about a painter. And then I found The Smile, which is tangentially about said painter. Uh, well, a different painter. Da Vinci as opposed to Vermeer? Vermeer? Ver... Hmm. The gentleman who painted Girl with a Pearl Earring. um... Who's Dutch? Look, I have a lot of like random knowledge in my head, and sometimes it gets yeeted out of my head because I'm like, I don't need this anymore, and then it comes up again in the weirdest places, and I'm like, I knew this once. I think I had a kick there for a while where I was reading books about artists, like tangentially about artists, um, which both of those are. I'm trying to think if there's another one that fits that, and I don't think there is. I've got a couple, like I said, I've got several for Mary Queen of Scots. I've got one for Cleopatra. Princesses of Myth covers Helen of Troy. It's Helen of Troy, Himiko, Nefertiri, and Queen Mav? I think. It's been a while since I've looked at them, and I don't own all of the duologies. I own one of all of the duologies, but I don't own both of all of the duologies. Because that would be silly and sensible. I'm trying to think. I don't think there's one like that that I have. I could step back. I could freeze for a moment. Look. Oh, yes. Sorry, I read that as Sense and Sensibility, and I was like, I read that as a graphic novel. I do not. Me and the classics, we don't get along. Well, most of them. I was thinking about that earlier, and the classics that have very little to do with ladies are fine. I don't mind Frankenstein. I like Jekyll and Hyde. What do you mean I'm wrong? Because I don't like Sense and Sensibility? Or because I read it as a graphic novel? Also, you should read it as a graphic novel. There's way less to it because you don't need words to describe things. You got pictures. You just need words for talking. Oh, well, I disagree. I disagree. Let me guess. You also think Jane Eyre is one of the best things ever. That's part of the problem. Mr. Darcy being dumb is part of the problem. I don't care. You can't make me care. I know, I'm sure. I can't tell if I'm being too loud. Maybe it was just the AC turning on. I'm gonna hope it was just the AC turning on. Like I said, part of it might be me coming at it from a modern aesthetic, but it's like I can't enjoy it. And I know this is very hypocritical coming from someone who said, oh, Lord of the Rings is very basic because it was one of the building blocks that all fantasy is based off of. All modern fantasy is based off of. So of course it's a bit more simple. But like, if I wanted to read Jane Eyre, I would read Elena from Tamora Pierce. Oh, because I agree with it more, and it's basically the same storyline. Just life goals are different. Like I said, I am well aware that the problem with the classics is probably in fact a problem with me and not a problem with the classics, but also they are not my favorite. Um Look, look, if you've read Jane Eyre, the whole point of Jane Eyre is a doormat who grows as a person and becomes less of a doormat and becomes a, I want to say, governess and wife, and is happy with her life, which good for her. She went through a lot of awful things to get there, and a lot of being not technically the other woman, but sort of the other woman. Um, and like, good for her. Worked hard, dealt with a lot of nonsense, got where she wanted, or close at least. In the end, like it's a bittersweet, happy ending thing. Cool. Um, my life, it's a classic, man. I'm not gonna be like, ooh, spoilers for a classic. And meanwhile, Elena, which I now suddenly realize I have to. Gosh darn it, I don't want to give spoilers for Elena now. But look, Elena ends in a much more fulfilling place for me. And maybe it's because her life goal is not to be a governess and married. So, yeah. Maybe that's part of it. Also, there's swords in Elena, so bonus. That's what Pride and Prejudice needs. More swords, then I'd be interested. I am aware that that would not be Pride and Prejudice, but I should read Pride and Prejudice and Zombies and see if I like that better. I might like that better. Oh, don't give him a sword, give her a sword. He could probably legally have a sword in that time period. Give it to her. Also, a bag of rocks with a sword just sounds like a Pokemon at this point. We're making literary Pokemon. No, that's not a Pokemon, that would be a Digimon. And we are not slandering Digimon with classic literature. That's awful. Let's not do that. Like, yes, I know they already have, like, Anjumon and Anjumon and Seraphimon, but, like, can we not? Cherubimon. Like, they've also got, like, Candlemon and Toymon, so, like, give the poor guys a break. They don't need to be ruined with classic literature, especially classic Western literature. Actually, they probably have something based off of Sun Wukong. I don't know. Oh, please don't. I don't need that. That is something I do not need in my life. No, please. I do not need a Darcymon. Also, you say it like, if you actually say it out loud, it sounds more like a Winx Club villain. It sounds just like Darcy. Oh. Like, if we want to turn the Winx Club villain into a Digimon, I'm down for that. No, but if we're doing classics I enjoy, Jekyll and Hyde is right up there. Frankenstein isn't bad. I haven't actually read Count of Monte Cristo. It's sort of on my to-read list. It's tangentially on my to-read list. Oh, I have read The Three Musketeers. So, side tangent, this has nothing to do with Wolf Tower, as it is neither girl focus nor journal. The Three Musketeers is a very well-written novel with a horrible main character. Like, I think everyone, including Cardinal Richelieu and Milady de Winter, are better than D'Artagnan. He's kind of the worst. It's like, oh, he likes his horse. Yeah, his horse is grumpy and mean and ugly, which is fine. That's not a problem. But he gets mad when people tell him his horse is grumpy and mean and ugly and, like, duels them because of it. And I'm like, sir, accept this fact. It's fine. It's not a slight on you. It's mean. It bites. And not in the, oh, I've been trained in combat way, just in the I'm mean. Yes, I guess this does go back to dealing with handing characters swords. Yes, he's got one of those. Look. All I'm saying is that if D'Artagnan was less of a hothead that jumped into things instead of listening for 2 seconds, there are a lot of people in that book that wouldn't be dead. There are a lot of people in that book who wouldn't wind up doing the dumb things they do because they have to react to the dumb things he's done. Yeah, that is a weird classic to read. Also, it's a series. Like, there's other books with D'Artagnan, and I'm like, why? Why is there more than one book with this man? Like, who wants to read more about him? I don't. But I kind of do. So, I kind of do, because everyone and their dog knows about the Three Musketeers. Everyone knows that that's where the Three Musketeers are from. And D'Artagnan is from, even though he is number 4. And then it's like, oh, he's in other books. And you're like, I don't like him. I don't want to read about him. I don't care about his story. But, like, what else could he have done? Like, what else did he ruin? Did he get more women killed? Because that was a bad running problem he had. And it's not, like, tangentially either. It was, like, directly his fault. Yeah. I'm trying to think. I feel like there's others that I read and was like neutral to okay with, but they're not coming to me. Huckleberry Finn. Huckleberry Finn was good. Uh, Gatsby was. I like Jude the Obscure. Like is a strong word. I don't regret reading Jude the Obscure. My professor was very smart with that book. Um, we read that, and she made sure we finished it with, I think, 2 weeks to Christmas. And then we did a Christmas Carol. The Christmas Carol. Because she wasn't going to send us home on a long holiday break after Jude the Obscure, which is such a downer. But it's kind of the perfect bubble pop dream story of you've got smart character A who has dream B and is trying to fulfill it and then gets married to dumb character C, and dream B just pops, basically. It's like you can't continue to pursue it because C, and it's the downward spiral, and it's not a happy book. It is a good book. It is not an easy read. I don't think it's for everyone. I do not think that is one everyone should read. I think there are certain people who that book would be terrible for them. I do think if you don't mind a bit of a misery fest, that's a good book. Like, maybe don't read it in the dead of winter. Like, my professor was not wrong. Spring! Spring is a great time to read that. Everyone's happy, and... Also, don't read it on summer vacation. It'll just ruin your summer vacation. Like, there's a fine line of when to read that book. Early fall, spring. Don't read it in the dead of winter. Don't read it in summer. But that one was good. Turn of the Screw is okay. I didn't like it, but again, I think that's a me problem. It was a spooky one, but it wasn't. I didn't dislike it because of the spooks. The spooks were fine. I mean, let's be real. Some of the older horror is spooky in a way that is fun. It's this quiet dread of things that modern readers wouldn't dread. But most of them are written as a very slow burn, and some of them leave hints like good little authors, and some of them just pull spooky out of their back pocket and they're like, ha, spooky, and you're like, where was the build up to this? Why do we have ghosts now? The Pit and the Pendulum isn't bad. I am not a huge Poe fan. I know, blasphemy. But Mask of the Red Death is honestly my favorite Poe. It is the one I will go back and reread. I think Pit and the Pendulum is fine because it's straightforward. Telltale Heart is just awful. And again, I had to read it many times. Did you just listen to the Pit and the Pendulum with a dramatic Scottish accent, or did you listen to more Poe with Scottish accent? Because I feel like that would enhance a lot. Also, I love how we started with this like lighthearted children's novel, and now we're talking Poe. This tracks. Yeah, see, if the Cask of Amontillado probably isn't bad. Uh, I don't like the Telltale Heart. Partially because I had to read it in school, partially because it was dumb. It is not poorly written. It's just a dumb story. Ugh, Mask of the Red Death is just good. Also, it made Phantom of the Opera finally make sense. Like, I think I'm trying to remember when the movie came out. I think I saw the movie for Phantom of the Opera with Gerard Butler, that one, before I read much Poe. So during Masquerade, when the Phantom shows up dressed as Red Death, I didn't get it. Like, that did not translate to me. I didn't realize that's who that was. And then I read Poe, and I'm like, Poe is dumb except this one story, which is really cool and has to do with colors and the arrogance of man, and disease comes for everyone, and, you know, modern society doesn't know what that's like at all. Anyway, and then I read the book, and the book says that he shows up dressed, and it's like, oh, I get it now. I understand. We're dressed as the Red Death for a reason. Oh, yeah, it's a French novel. It's short. It's got that going for it. It is a little convoluted. It's really good though. Um, I think I've said it before. I side with the Phantom. I do not think he's good, but I prefer him. No, and then you've got all of the, depending on which version you got, if they abbreviated all of the honorifics, Madame, Monsieur, Mademoiselle, Count, Viscount, uh, yeah, if they abbreviate all of those, it gets real confusing real fast, and you're like, I need a glossary, I need a sticky note that tells me what all of these are. Honestly, that one might be a good one for a audiobook too. Um, I enjoy it. Not as an audiobook, I enjoyed reading it. But I won't say it was the easiest thing I've ever read. Oh, yeah. It's a slow burn. I mean, the nice part is you learn real quick that Christine is just kind of awful. And so is Raoul. Oh, jeez. You know, I didn't think I was going to side with classic villains as a kid. I thought, no, the princesses, they're the best. And then, you know, I read some of these and I'm like, the villains have a point. Some of these girls are super dumb. I have not read those books. I have no interest in reading those books. Like, there are dragons. That interests me, but not enough for the rest of it. That is one of those high fantasy things that I'm like, I'm never gonna read you. I shouldn't say never, but I have no intention of. That is not. I know it has sword fights. I know. It's got dragons, it's got sword fights, it's got dumb girls. Great. great. It's not my idea of a good time. If we're gonna talk about a book that has dragons, that bond with people, hey, there's the Dragon Riders of Pern. I actually like those books. If we're gonna talk about a book with sword fights, there's Pax and Arian. I like those books. We're gonna talk about a book with zombies. Do I have a book with zombies? Let me think about this for a second. Percy Jackson technically has zombies, so there you go. I like those books. Is that a cop-out? Does that count as a cop-out? That might count as a cop-out. Pride and Prejudice and zombies. Yes, yes, yes. How have we come back around to this? Yeah, no, I would that's not true. I was about to say I'd rather read Aragon, but that's not true. I don't want to reread that. I read the first two and I was like, why did I read the second one? I was hoping it would get better. It did not. Yeah, there are some things that I just won't read. That's one of them. I have a suspicion. What is this? No, that one's fine. I have a suspicion that the Throne of Glass ones are another one on that list of things I won't actually read. Oh, I know. I just realized that in randomly grabbing a book out of my to-read selection, I actually had planned the next book and forgot. Well, oops. Good news is, they still exist. I can just read them later. Wow. I think we have tangented for, yes, that is Sarah J. Maas. Throne of Glass, that entire series. Like, the covers look good. But the more I, like, hear about them, the less I think that they'd be up my alley. Like, I think in the broadest definition, yes, but when you actually get down to what they really are, no. Yeah. I was like that for a while. Like I said, the covers are very pretty, and, like, the different covers are very pretty, but I'm like, I don't think this is what I want. Because the cover makes me think of Pax and Arian, but I don't think that's really what it's gonna be. I just don't. Well, now that we have tangented far from Wolf Tower into this weird liminal space, I'll remind you that the next time, 2 weeks from now, it will be about honesty and deception. So there's your hint. There's your clues. Look, it's fine. I was kind of drifting off topic anyway. We got extra recommendations this time around. So hope you all have a good night. Hope you have fun and can read something. Bye.